Good morning, everyone, and welcome back again to our EWC St. Lucia Champion Symposium. I am again your host, Michelle Samuel, and I have with me one of our champions who emerged winner in the year 2020. Now, before we bring him on, I just want to again I want to remind all of you that the EWC competition happens every single year, and it's for the brightest minds doing the most innovative things, the most inventive things to solve our everyday problems. And for our theme for GEW this year, we're talking about inspire, connect, mentor, and engage our nation's youth. And this winner is one of our youth. Don't mind the age, we're still young. And as we're young, we are making strides, we're making impact. And this is one of the things that our winner will be doing, and we'll be talking about his venture and what this venture is doing. Amazing, amazing things. Now, this partnership is with the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce for GEW for this year. And we are so very glad to be able to champion and to showcase our entrepreneurs in such a platform. And this morning, I want to welcome all of you who are watching via our social media channels. Thank you for joining us. I know you're busy, but whenever it comes a time for us to give our flowers and give our props and give the credits to the people who are impacting our community and our island economy, we have to give the time. And I want to thank you for joining us. And I'm going to now briefly introduce our next interviewee. Now, this particular individual, I've known him for a couple of years. He is no stranger to the competition realm, no stranger whatsoever. Many of you may even have seen him so many times that you may not even be surprised to see his face now. Now, the reason that we are interviewing him is because he has an actual working product that is solving actual problems, today, present day problems. And we're talking about a pandemic. We're talking about, livelihoods lost. We're talking about not being able to do certain things, not being able to go certain places, and so many restrictions. But can you imagine having or not having the knowledge or not having the know-how of what to do in case of an emergency? In case of typical emergency situations, what is in place for that? And this young man figured it out. He created something that not only comes in handy in medical situations, but comes in handy in situations where persons may not even be aware. Okay, if in case I take a fall, if in case I fall sick, it may not necessarily be COVID, but how would you know what my underlying medical conditions are? We tend to hear that a lot when we hear the reports or read the articles about persons either getting sick or persons either passing away due to underlying medical conditions. Can you imagine what different type of assistance can be offered to these people if they were aware immediately of what their underlying medical conditions were? Total different change in the game as to what that treatment could be like. So for this individual, we are going to talk to him about this venture that came out on top in the year 2020. And I am speaking of none other than Mr. Gilland Avril. Mr. Gillan Avril, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm fine. I'm doing well.
All right, excellent. Now, of course, you heard the intro that I gave you in the
Yeah.
beginning, but persons know you in the competition realm, right? Of course, you have friends and family and colleagues that know you, are very familiar with the work that you do. But for persons who do not know you or are not familiar with you, we want to get them to know who you are as an individual. So, outside of the inventor, the innovator, and the entrepreneur, who is Gillan Avril? That's my first question to you.
Well, first of all, most persons know me for in business competitions, what have you. But I think a lot of persons know me for carnival. I think that's one of the biggest things a lot of persons may know me for, being a costume designer and builder. I think I've been doing this for 18 years. So aside from
Wow.
all the technology, there's the creative side to me. So I've actually been designing costumes both locally, regionally as well. So that's the other side of Gillan, the arts Gillan.
Okay, so that's the creative and the arts Gillen, right?
Yes.
So Gillen, I mean, we are sort of, empowering and talking about youth with this theme and these activities that we're having for GEW, for this week. So give us an idea, what's your age range like? I mean, like, you may not want to say your exact age, but where exactly do you fall when you talk about youth? What category do you fall in?
I'm 36. There's no problem. I have no problem saying my age. I'm 36, and for me, I've been involved with youth and been involved in stuff from an early age. I think early 20s thereabout. So it's been at least
Wow.
over 15 years I've been involved. I've been doing stuff through the chamber with junior achievement. I've done stuff on my own. So I've really been involved in this whole youth movement and trying to get innovation going instead from a young age, from the primary school level all the way up. So I'm not a stranger to this at all.
Yes, and of course, we did mention that initially, but there is a lot of, I would say, there's a lot of things that are being held back for people that fall outside of the 35 age group, because a lot of the initiatives and the
Right.
opportunities that are being held, especially in country, tend to sort of cap off at 35. So
Yes.
once you're 35, you're no longer considered to be youth.
Yeah.
But what if you are someone who is your age 36 years old and over, and you have come up with something that actually solves a problem? And the policymakers don't allow or don't provide us with that platform where we can have access to these grants and funding opportunities that can encourage, these innovations and inventions that persons such as yourself come up with. How do you, address something like that? What do you say to something like that to get the attention of our policymakers?
Well, one of the things I've been always advocating for locally, I think we need incubators. And I think that might be a next way to actually get um, my knowledge passed on to other persons. Because I've always been one of the persons where I'm never shy to hold my idea to myself. And I don't believe in that holding my idea to myself. I'm always willing to share my idea with anyone and listen to any other young entrepreneurs who have ideas. So for me, it's really a case to having a platform, whether it be, and I think that's why I take part in competitions. It's not even a matter of winning the competitions. It's really to let persons see that there are ideas, brilliant ideas coming from St. Lucia. I mean, with like what you said, the project that I won last year with, I mean, when I pitched persons internationally said, hey, why not do this in my country? So I'm saying this is the type of things that I would want for persons to see. A brilliant idea can come from St. Lucia that can rival anything on the international market. So when you cap things at 35, ideas don't stop at 35. There's still persons who come up with things along the way. So so that's one of my issues. I've always had that, youth is 35, but sometimes youth is 40. Then the next thing you see 45. So it, it's it's up and down sometimes based on what project you're doing. It changes, it fluctuates. So I mean, for me, it's always I'm as young as I feel. So even if I'm 36, I still feel like I'm youth. So for me, it's really to get the ideas out there, let persons know that there are brilliant minds here, and it shouldn't stop at 36 or 35. At any age, someone can come up with a brilliant idea. It's just a matter of platforms. We need to create the platforms, the avenues that persons can actually showcase these ideas, and which is why I'm supportive of the initiative that you do, because it's not limited to sometimes any age range or gender. Anybody with a brilliant idea can actually take part in some of the things that you do and then can be exposed, and they could get their self exposed to the wider public and the world at that.
I definitely agree with you there. Now let's just transition a little bit more, from you as a youth and what it is that you're doing. But of course, we haven't mentioned yet what it is that you're doing. So let us transition into the story. I mean, you as an individual, you as a young man, what propelled you or what motivated you to become an entrepreneur and to then found your company called Engage?
Um, I don't think I had a choice, to be honest. From the age of 11 or 12, I discovered a heart condition that I had, and that had always played an issue with me and how I performed at school, because there'd be moments I would be sick because I'd have palpitations, and then I'd be down for some amount of time, be on medication. So it was, I never saw myself having a typical 8 to 5 or 8 to 4 job like everybody else. For me, there's always been early mindset. You need to work for yourself. You need to find something that you're passionate about and, explore it. And I've had several ideas along the way that have delved in, from the artistic side of me to more technical side of me. But this one was close to me because, again, me having a heart condition, and like you said, what would happen? I used to black out a lot. So how would I, if I blacked out, how would someone know what was wrong with me, who I was? So this is an idea that I had from a tender age that I had to wait for until the technology was right. And it just so happened that last year, 2020, the time was right to actually test out the market with my idea and actually bring it out. Because again, the market is moving towards that. The government is actually looking to initiate some initiatives along the similar lines that I saw, hey, we could actually collaborate and merge together to see how we could actually not just help myself, but the other persons on island who have similar issues or even other issues that I might be able to help out.
All right, excellent. So you were able to create something. I mean, you literally said you were waiting out for the right time. And typically for entrepreneurs, it's all about timing, the right timing. When something is in demand, when something there's a need for it, people are looking for it. Yes, it's like you have an answer to my problem. But when you're sitting on something and nobody understands, it's frustrating. So it's sort of like you have to wait for people to kind of catch up. And it is sometimes a long wait. But then your time came because as as fate would have it, COVID decided to give us a ring. I mean, it was hitting everywhere else, and everybody knew at some point it would hit us. And the thing about it is, we are dependent on
Tourism.
tourism. We are dependent on visitors coming in and of course spending their money here, and the visitors mingling with all of us, and us networking and sharing our culture and our artistic nature and all of that. But then something prevented that from continuing. Something even prevented them from enjoying our island country the way it was intended to. But then you came up with something. But before we go into that, can you please tell us what really motivated you to enter the Entrepreneurship World Cup, competition? What was the motivator behind it? What was the thing that said, yes, this is for me and I need to enter?
Well, again, like you rightly said, COVID is a big factor for me last year. And parallel to that, my girlfriend was actually pregnant, and I was actually doing some testing of the very same device with her. And when the competition came around, I was like, hey, you know what? You've been sitting on this idea long enough. COVID now has actually, again, propelled the need for this even further. Let's test it out on the local market and even regional and international market. Let's see what person are really thinking about this, and is there really a need? Yes, it's an idea in my head that I'm seeing a need for it, but is there really a need for it? Can it really solve a problem? Are persons going to take to it as I'm taking to it? And that was my real driving force, that, hey, I've been doing this for, at the time, it's 9 months with my girlfriend. So there's really seen that, okay, it was actually working to some degree. Let us take it a step further. Let me see how I could actually save a life. And that's my biggest driving force right now, to save a life. It has not happened as yet, but that is what I'm really striving towards. And that was my propelling thing, that, hey, COVID is here, killing people. Let us see if I could implement this to actually save a life. And that is what has propelled me. And still my driving force up to this day right now.
Excellent, excellent. And of course, for those of you who are watching and listening on our social media channels, you are watching, let's remind you, you're watching the EWC St. Lucia Champion Symposium. I am here with one of our EWC champions, Mr. Gilland Avril of Engage. He was our champion emerging in the year 2020 last year. Now, Gilland, we have not really talked much about what it is that you came up with. So this is your moment to share with our listeners and our viewers what it is that you came up with. I'm going to sit back and just sort of let you do your thing so persons can understand what it is you came up with, what it does, and of course, what the benefits are and why we are saying that this is something that there is a need for. So, Gillen, take it away.
Okay. The initial idea was to create something called a Meditag. So this was the initial prototype. And the idea was to store persons in case of emergency information. So your name, your address, your telephone number, your blood type, what medication you're on, who to contact if something happens to you, your doctor. And my girlfriend actually wore this for her pregnancy, and it would have her contact number, her midwife, all the information. And because of the lockdowns for COVID, the long lines, we were using it as a way for her to get in, because again, she was pregnant. Sometimes she was not at the initial phase, she was not showing. And then we'd actually scan it and let the security know that, hey, she's pregnant, she can't take the long lines and go in. And this was the initial idea. Actually, fast forward now, Michelle, the Meditag now, which was this, has now turned into this. So it has now evolved. So everything that was on this is now done here. And also, if it's a new watch, it's now modified into Swift, so it's Meditag and Swift. We can actually do live vitals. So we actually working on actually having a command center of sorts now, where persons with the watch and the Meditag, we can actually monitor you on a 24-hour basis. So even to the point of you collapsing, we can actually inform now the EMTs where you at, what conditions you have. So yes, they can scan it, but you would now also have the person's medical history. So we can monitor your blood pressure all the time, your heart rate, your blood oxygen level, and we could also do your temperature. Again, because of COVID, we actually factored all of these things into there. So this is what Meditag started off as, and now we're at this right now. So the business has grown from where we started off last year from the competition. We actually in talks with the ministry, not just on this Meditag project. Just over the weekend, I had a next talk with someone to be actually looking at diabetics to see how, again, focus group to actually see how we could actually work with diabetics to actually monitor them, to monitor the blood glucose level. So again, if they collapse or something happens to them, the EMTs would actually know who they are, what medication they're on, the whole medical history, not everything, but some basic medical history on them. So, I mean, it's just mind-boggling where you think you started with a simple idea as this, and now has evolved into something like this. And the response that we've gotten now with this new version, the upgraded version of this, it's ridiculous. Persons, ideas that we didn't even think of, or avenues we didn't even think of, persons are seeing scope for it. So, I mean, again, this wouldn't have happened without EWC last year. So I'm very grateful for actually taking part and actually, again, winning with this idea. So that's where we're at right now in terms of Meditag / Swift. Michelle.
Wow, you blew me away there. I was not
Nobody knew
expecting.
about this, yes.
I was not expecting this. I mean, I was
Yeah.
still expecting to see this
Oh,
little
yeah.
Meditag, pendant, and for you to tell me, we're still working, but you are upgrading. My goodness, where have I been? You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I'm talking about, right? This is what I'm talking about. We're talking about our nation's youth doing amazing things, innovative things. Now, again, just to remind you, if you're just joining in, you're watching EWC St. Lucia Champion Symposium, where we are talking with our EWC St. Lucian champions. And this morning, we are talking with Mr. Gilland Avril of Engage, and he is talking about his venture, which is called Meditags. He was our 2020 national winner. And yes, he made it to the global finals as well. And he did amazingly well. Now, Gillan, let's go back to the competition itself, right? I mean, you have upgraded since then, but let's talk about the competition. Was there anything that you learned about your venture and anything else that you learned from the other competitors that had an impact on your venture and potentially maybe had thoughts to either change or pivot or potentially focus on something else apart from what you were focusing on?
Well, yes. I mean, when we did the competition, even when we did some of the training sessions, you would hear other participants from other countries how they would speak, or there were some businesses who had in the same medical field. So it had me thinking I was limited to just this bracelet, this little pendant, and it had me wondering, what if I could do so much more? I was hesitant as to whether to go electronic or not, and then there was a company, I think in Italy, they actually had some electronic component to it. So it had me thinking from at that point in time that, maybe you should not just stick to this. There's way more potential for you. And then, so that was at the back of my mind. So I learned that from other competitors that, this is bigger than what my little St. Lucia has to offer. And when you started hearing persons telling you, hey, come, let's have a talk to my Ministry of Health in my country, what have you, started thinking, hey, I can't just leave it at this level because there are other components persons are asking for. Even when we had a meeting with the Ministry of Health, they were requesting, can this monitor persons in real time? So it was like, okay, to reinforce the point that I learned at EWC, okay, you need to upgrade this. So yes, you had your idea that you were happy with this, but during competition, persons were upgrading the system. You learned of what other things were working elsewhere. And now, even locally, that they're now asking you to upgrade. So I was like, you know what? I love you. As much as I love you, you worked, but I need to pivot. I need to go in the direction of what persons are asking for. So then I actually dealt directly to a manufacturer to actually come up with the whole concept for the SWIV and how to integrate the Meditag component into this. So, I was not content with just this. I knew that there was potential for more, especially as COVID was kept evolving and the new protocols and new guidelines kept coming. So I had to evolve. And again, as anything else, during the sessions at EWC, it was always a case of future planning. They always ask you what's next for your business, where do you see it? And even during the lean canvas, you have to look at all of these aspects as well. So I was like, you know what? It is an idea down there. Person's asking for it now. I better look into it. And this is why this has come to life.
Wow, that is completely amazing. And this actually goes straight into something that I had planned, to hold on to, but I'm gonna tell you because I mean today is Friday, the date has passed. So I think it's only fair that I share with you that you were nominated for an award. I don't know if you've known. I know, look at that look on your face, right? Look at that look on your face. There is something called the Island Innovation Awards 2021. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It is a collaboration between Island Innovations and the Bill Clinton Foundation. They came together, partnered, and created the Island Innovation Awards. And this is something that is championing individuals, organizations, and projects that are doing amazing things within your island communities to create change. And some of the individual awards, of course, was COVID impact and different, things that are happening, initiatives, and what persons are doing to address the COVID-19 situation. And your Meditags fit right in there. So I'm just letting you know that you were nominated for this. So my advice to you is to check it out. I'm going to share the information with you so that you will so that you will know what it's about. The deadline actually closed
Okay.
on the 5th of November. So, I mean, of course, we have several judges, and I'm actually one of the ambassadors for Island Innovation. So I had an advantage in nominating persons that I felt were deserving of awards. So I utilized that particular advantage to nominate persons, organizations, and of course, projects that I felt were deserving. And you were one of those that I nominated. So just letting you know. So right now it's in the hand of the judges. They're the ones who are going to deliberate and decide, at the end of the day, who wins, because this is open to all islands across the globe. Wherever there's an island, wherever there's an innovator, it's open to them. It's not closed off to anyone. So I'm hoping that somebody there on that panel, sees the viability of what you're doing with Meditags. And I'm really glad you had this upgrade so that at least it's something that you can show that, hey, this is what I started out with, but this is what I have now. So at least this is something that you can potentially grow. And if in case, somebody picks it up, there you go, more support for you beyond the St. Lucian market. So again, those of you who are just joining us, you're watching the EWC St. Lucia Champion Symposium. For this year, GEW, Terra has partnered with the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce to host several events for GEW. And under Terra, we're hosting this symposium to champion our EWC winners and People's Choice champions from the year 2019 to 2021. The theme for this year is Inspire, Connect, Mentor, and Engage Our Nation's Youth. And Mr. Gilland Avril is one of our amazing youth doing amazing things with his Meditags under his company, Engage. Now, Gilland, I have just one final question for you before we let you go for the morning. I know you're busy and you have to get back to work. but we want to know what is in the future for Meditags and
Hmm.
what more can we expect from you under Engage?
Hmm. That's a very good question. Well, like I said, right now we're actually in talks with the Ministry of Health. Um, the whole Meditag SWIFT is one of the things on the table. I think as we saw coming out of the fourth, well, we're still in the fourth week, but we're not as bad as we were. This is one of the things that we were trying to get the Ministry of Health to actually adopt, to actually use our SWIFTs, such Meditags, to actually monitor persons that are in home quarantine with COVID. So we'd have been able to see, again, the whole idea is to save a life. If your heart rate goes down, your blood oxygen goes down, whatever the case may be, you'd actually have someone there with you 24/7 monitoring you. And we would even be able to alert the EMTs if something goes wrong with you. So this is what we're working on right now with the Meditags at SWIFT. Engage-wise, we're actually working with the ministry again to actually come up with something called the events card. It's a digital health pass. So again, for vaccinated persons, we're actually gonna be issuing, we're gonna be issuing cards to persons who are vaccinated that they can actually enter places again, because we saw the issue with the paper cards that were given out, the whole fraudulency, people can actually fake it, what have you. So we have a digital version of it. And this again, new technology, working with facial recognition, what have you. So hopefully you will see it in maybe a couple of weeks. Let's just hope that things go well. But again,
Looking forward to it.
yeah,
Looking forward to it.
it's there. It's there. I mean, I can't talk too much about it, but we've gotten a green light in principle to actually roll it out. So I guess on the ministry's end, they're just doing some fine tuning policy making as anything else, because you'd imagine that this is something new to the island. You're now actually
Right.
giving someone the green light to actually use facial recognition to actually verify who you are, your status, what have you. So this is a whole new realm. And again, I'm happy that Engage is the one You know me, I'm gonna be the one to champion new technology onto the island. So this is something I've been working on behind the scenes. I can't really go out and talk about it. A lot of persons don't know about this, so it's really hush hush. But CMO has mentioned it. I mean, she didn't say who was it behind it, but CMO did mention that there's this new thing coming out, rolling out COVID passport. So we are working behind the scenes, both on the Meditag component / SWIFT, and also this digital health pass coming out stream. Again, the whole idea, because of COVID, is seeing this problem and seeing how best we can actually help and make things easier for persons. I mean, contact tracing is an issue as well, so all of that is factored into there as well. So it's not just for vaccinated persons, because there's this vax, anti-vax, whatever it
Right.
is. But the idea is to make Central safe as much as possible. And if we can do it for contact tracing purposes, we're all for it. If we can do it for persons who want to be vaccinated, all for it. If we have to do for persons who are in home isolation and quarantining, we're there. So at this point in time, we're really just trying to help the government as much as possible, open up the industry as much as possible, and add our technology into the frame of it. Like I say, it started off last year at EWC, so we just try to implement these very same ideas and even more ideas, to actually help the island open up and help make Central a better place, really, at this point in time.
Wow, amazing, amazing, Gilland. So at this point in time, again, I just want to thank you for joining us this morning, for sharing your story with us on Meditags and the countless things that you are still working on. My goodness. I'm hoping that by the time you get to the age that people no longer consider to be youth, that you will be a household name by this time. I'm just hoping, you know. But in case somebody is listening or watching that needs to reach out to you and need to connect with you, can you please tell them how to reach you?
First of all, you could get me at Facebook. I'm always on Facebook, engage.slu on Facebook, or you could reach me at my telephone number 284-0304. And Instagram is more personal, but you could also try to get me on Instagram at Gilland Avril. But I'm open. You could call me at any point in time, send me a message if you want to know more about this. Feel free. I'm open.
Right, excellent. Again, Gillan, thank you again so much for joining us this morning and for talking with us about your experience in EWC, your venture Meditags, and the upgrades that Meditags actually is undergoing. Wow, that is totally amazing. So those of you again, we're joining with of course, Mr. Gilland Avril this morning, who has joined us for this symposium. Gilland, thank you again. I'm going to send you to the backstage while we go ahead and wrap up. So for those of you who were joining us late, you missed out on a wonderful talk, on a wonderful interview with an amazing individual who's doing phenomenal things. So with me here, Michelle Samuel, as your host of EWC St. Lucia Champion Symposium, hosted by Sled Terra, we are inspiring, connecting, mentoring, and engaging our nation's youth for GEW St. Lucia. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a rest of the day. Enjoy it. This is a wonderful Friday. Stay safe, stay blessed. We have, of course, our other interviewees. We had Martin Hanna, we had Amber Rose Harris. It was amazing. It is going to be amazing. Keep following our social media channels, Entrepreneurship World Cup St. Lucia. Of course, we have this competition every single year. But if you want to know more about each of these individuals, each of these organizations and companies that are doing amazing things for St. Lucia, check out our page and you can find them there. Follow them on their social media channels as well so that you can learn about what it is that they're doing. Again, thank you for joining me this morning, Michelle Samuel, and have a great day. Take care.